In the small MPV class, the Toyota Avanza is and will probably always be the top dog in the category. But the Suzuki Ertiga has always been kind of the underdog story, the one you cheer for, and this time it's got some hybrid technology. The Suzuki Ertiga you're looking at now is an update of the second generation model we've had since around 2018. But when you look at it, it doesn't really look like they changed all too much. They put in new pieces here and there, changed the grille a little bit, but essentially it's still the same vehicle. Now, does that count for a lot? Do you want car makers to change more with the design of their vehicles when they go from the pre-facelift to the facelift model? Let us know in the comments below. But I think that the way the Ertiga looks, it's very unassuming. It's not trying to be out and out, very big or very, very stylish. It just wants to do its own thing, and that's always respectable. Now, from that vantage point, you can see that the Ertiga, compared to a lot of its contemporaries, looks very simple, very plain, and that's actually all right. It does have a nice glass area here, so when you're driving around, going on an excursion with your family, it's nice for them to see what's going on around. The wheels, these are actually 15s. Nothing really to speak about here. I mean, disc brakes in front, drum brakes in the back. All well and good. Fuel tank. I mean, even if I'm mentioning fuel tank, it really means there's nothing really much to mention here. But it does have the continuous glass area up to here, kind of connecting. So here's the back of the Ertiga. Well, let me know in the comments below what you think of the design of this, because they didn't change too much. It seems a bit actually plain by my eye, but a lot of people do like plain, which is perfectly fine. When you open the tailgate, the lift gate, yes, it is gas assisted, so holds it up very nicely. This is where it gets interesting for the Ertiga because it's got some things really neat going on with the back. For example, the space here is about 17 inches from here to there, and about 48 inches wide and 33 inches tall. But wait, there's more. You can actually pull out these covers or even lift them up, so you have a space that's actually a little bit taller, which is pretty cool. You can start folding down more seats to give you more space. So with a pull of that and a pull of this, you get a space that is about 41 inches long from here to there and about 39 inches wide between the wheel wells. But you can also fold down the middle row to give you a maximum of up to 66 inches from the back right to the middle row. Plenty of space for, let's say, I don't know, bikes, big screen TVs, no problem. So here's the engine bay of the Suzuki Ertiga Hybrid. What you're looking at here is a K15 engine, makes just over 100 horsepower and 138 Newton meters of torque, which is par for the course for something of this size. It does have a 4-speed automatic with it, which is kind of unusual because we would have thought they would have updated that when they upgraded the model from the second generation to the facelifted second generation, and of course, upgraded. Now, I know what you're thinking. Hey Vince, I thought they were going to do a hybrid on this one. Well, yes, it is a hybrid, but it's a mild hybrid. And you can tell by looking at behind the engine, you will see something called an ISG or BSG, Belt Starter Generator, Integrated Starter Generator. There are different terms for it, but it's all the same thing. What it is kind of an alternator and a generator and a starter motor combined into one. It's driven by the belt from the crankshaft to provide electrical power for the vehicle, to provide electrical charge for the battery pack, to provide really you with functions like the auto start-stop system, an electric boost, because being that it's also a motor, it helps give the engine a little bit of a boost when it comes to driving around, especially in low-speed driving. The power of the electric motor is around 3.1 horsepower, and it comes in with another 50 Newton meters of torque, which is something very useful for small displacement engines. Now, when it comes to mild hybrids, yes, this is a mild hybrid. This is actually a bit milder than what we're used to because instead of 48 volts, which is common in a lot of other models, this one is 12 volts, which is actually kind of low voltage. And that's why when you look underneath, we're not seeing any of the orange we would normally see in a hybrid conduit system, especially for hybrids 48 volts and above. The battery pack is actually about the size of a little subwoofer, and it's located under the driver's seat. So yes, it is a mild hybrid, but does it make a difference when it comes to everyday driving? Let's find out. But first, let's check out what's inside. So the third row of the Ertiga is actually pretty nice. I mean, the seat itself is nice and soft. Got a headrest here. There's room. Yeah, it's actually pretty good. Knee room is actually okay. The way we've got it configured right now, it's kind of giving all three rows a very balanced space, so which is good. There are 2 cup holders here, and it fits my new bottle very well, like right there, which is pretty good. You got seat belts here, 3-point seat belts. Again, it's very nice. The only thing really missing here are charging ports for USB, because dito sa kaliwa ko may abang but there's no USB port or 12-volt port there. The rear AC vents are actually there in the middle row. It reaches here pretty well, but you know, could be better. Would be nice if it was closer here. But still, this is a budget vehicle, so that's to be expected. Now let's check out this seat. Just to be clear, the version of the Ertiga we're in now is the GLX. This is a top-of-the-line model. But it kind of doesn't feel like it, especially from here from the middle row, because it's not leather. You don't get any pockets which you can put your phone, you know, like the Veloz, or I think the Avanza as well. So there's nowhere to put that. Instead, I put it here on the center armrest, which, by the way, is quite narrow. But it's okay. I mean, at least the height is nice. There is no headrest here for the middle passenger, so yeah, that's something. It's also not a 3-point seat belt here in the middle. You only get a lap belt there. Also here, you do have headrest here, and it's the comfort of the seat is actually pretty good, and you do have a nice AC here with 3 blower settings. This is a max setting, and it's actually okay, which is good. Of course, right now we're still under the shade, so it's not a problem. But two key omissions here. One is the lack of any USB charging ports here in the back. Instead, what you get is a 12-volt outlet there, so you have to have a little adapter for that. And also, you don't see any cup holders around. I mean, you do have bottle holders here on the doors, but beyond that, really no cup holders, which is something you kind of would think is essential in a multi-purpose family vehicle. When you sit in the driver's seat of the Ertiga, it's actually a nice place to be in. Now, this is an update of the model. I think they launched in 2017 or 18. So a lot of the dashboard, it actually looks very familiar. They just updated a few things like trim pieces, this panel, the center panel here for the touchscreen audio. You've got still the same kind of dashboard. It is plastic, but that is to be expected of this class. But again, the new trim, the leather, everything just feels a little bit better. It looks a little better to the eye. They did cover a lot of the bases here with a lot of the features. Like, for example, you have audio controls here, you have phone controls here on the left. You also have your cruise control here, which is always good for long drives. You have a nice clear driver display there. You have the tachometer on the left, speedometer on the right, fuel and temperature gauges. You have a multi-info display here, which has a variety of displays, including the hybrid system. More on that in a bit. So from the audio system, you go down, you've got your AC here. It's an auto climate control unit, so if you press this, it'll just go full blast to try to get to the right temperature. It's not a dual zone unit, but there is also an AC for the rear, which is actually nice. So that's all well and good. Down here, you have, well, a tray for your phone. Right now, let me take off my phone because I've done demonstrating the the Android Auto and Apple CarPlay. And when you do that, you've got a nice tray there for your phone. There's no wireless charger, unfortunately, so you're still reliant on the USB or the 12-volt outlet there if you have an adapter. But still, the tray fits my phone very nicely. One of the nicer features here, the cup holders, these have AC vents in them. So if you want to put, let's say, a cold drink that you want to keep cold, or a really hot drink you want to kind of cool down a little bit so you can drink it like coffee, that's going to be very, very useful, and I do like that feature very much. You can close it off there that way. Your transmission here is, of course, the Perndl or Perndl 2L right there. So it's all standard stuff. It's not like one of those like shifters you would find in a Prius, like it goes like that. So not that kind. Standard handbrake lever. So that pretty much covers it for the features of this vehicle. However, that does bring us to a rather unusual topic about the Ertiga Hybrid, particularly in the GLS trim, is that there are some odd decisions when it came to the product planning process that resulted in some of the things we're noticing around here. For example, a lot of cars now are actually marketed towards women's and moms. So one of the more, let's say, standard features, given that kind of target market, is that they need to have a mirror, especially even with a light, on the driver's side. But here, nothing. It's actually a plain thing. It's actually pretty thin. Yeah, there's no mirror, so it's not really useful in that sense. There are also no sunglass holders here, which is unusual. Also, the lights here, there are no lights here individual, only the central light right there. But one of the more glaring ones, this mirror. Because me driving around, when I look at it and see behind it, the term, there's no English term for that, or at least I can't pinpoint a perfect English term for that, but in Tagalog, we would call it nakakalula tignan. So it's like, yeah, I kind of avoid looking at that. But also, when it comes to the actual mirror, this one does not have day or night mode. It's not an electrochromic. I wasn't expecting that anyway, but I was expecting at least a day-night. The lever here, there is no lever here. It's plain. So if there's a big SUV in the back of you, and then they're on high beam, there's nothing you can do about it other than just sit here and take it, or just kind of point it that way. A couple more things. Again, only 2 cup holders here, no cup holders for the back. It's still got the lever handbrake. It doesn't have an electronic parking brake like some of the competitors, like let's say Toyota Veloz, for instance. And the Veloz, the higher trims of the Veloz also have things like the electronic parking brake, auto brake hold. It has a wireless charger. It even has an armrest. This one, you do not get an armrest. Really, it's kind of things that we thought they could have updated to even bump up the price to meet that. But for some reason, they tried to reduce the price somehow by making some rather odd decisions in the product planning phase. But does it make a difference when you drive it? Well, let's go around and take it. I've always been a fan of Suzukis ever since I can remember, since I was a kid. And I think it's because, our family owned 3 Suzukis, one after the other, because my mom, she actually really loved Suzukis, and kind of rubbed off on me. This was in the Middle East where she lived, and whenever I'd visit in the summer, she would always take us around in her Suzuki. So her first car was a Swift. That was, I think, maybe 1991 thereabouts, and then she got a Jimny, and then she upgraded to the Vitara, the 3-door. Unfortunately, it wasn't the J-top. There wasn't a J-top available then, but I remember that car, and I really liked it. And I guess it kind of rubbed off on me, so whenever I would review cars, it kind of brings back all these memories. I've never owned a Suzuki personally, but all those memories kind of come back about these cars that it's not really like super fantastic and like class leading and all that, but for what they were trying to achieve, they always seem to achieve it. When they go for a little 4x4, it really does work well as a 4x4, even on the sand dunes and wadis of Oman where my mom was. Now, when it comes to the new generation ones, it's kind of the same thing. They really do specialize in these small cars. They make them very well. That's why I still like the Swift now. I still like the Ertiga, the way it drives. I still like the Jimny. But yes, back to the Ertiga. The way this drives around town, the way it behaves on the rougher roads, like let's say EDSA, or even like the little roads we usually go to where we shoot, this actually feels good. Like when you compare it to even, let's say, the Veloz, with the Veloz, when you drive there, you're really, like bouncing all over the place. This one, the absorption is a lot better. The refinement is better. The way it rides over, like when you go over the rougher concrete, it's not droning into the cabin as much as some of the other models, and that's always a good thing. Now, I still think the Expander would be the lead of the class when it comes to, ride and all that. But this one is a pretty close second. There's nothing really you can do about the noise because, again, we're in the budget car class. So loud motorcycles, yeah, it really does come into the cabin because of the glass and all the sound deadening. Well, the basic sound deadening. But still, all things considered, it's pretty good. The curious thing about the Ertiga is actually the hybrid system. Like I mentioned earlier, they went for a 12-volt integrated starter generator, and that is about as mild as it gets. And even the battery underneath, like it's right underneath my seat, it's like a little subwoofer. I think only the capacity is around maybe 10 or 8 amp hours, which isn't much. But what it does provide you is that if you're in traffic, let's say it cuts out the engine to save you fuel, which is pretty good. And also when you're pulling off the line, let's say if you're in stop and go traffic, coming from a stoplight, so on and so forth, it gives the engine a bit of a boost. It gives it a helping hand, and it's all just there, part of the system. It's something you can really maximize, but it's not something you can tell your friends about, like you show them a parlor trick of it driving in EV mode. No, this one cannot do that, because the actual hybrid system is really more of an assist. So if you've tried, let's say, some of the other Honda models, like the IMA, the integrated motor assist, it's similar to that one, but it's even milder than that one. So keep that in mind as you go through some of the Suzuki hybrids coming up in the future. And I'm sure this is only the first of many, but we'll start seeing these hybrid systems in some of their other models in the future. The only thing though is that when the start-stop system does activate, your aircon does cut out. The compressor doesn't come out, because the compressor of this one, just like the hybrid system of this one, is also belt driven. It's not an electrically driven system like when you're stopped in the stoplight and you can't have the belt starter generator or the integrated starter, whichever you want to call it. You can't have it driving the compressor of the AC, because it doesn't work that way. So keep that in mind. You won't get AC cooling when you're stopped at a stoplight with the auto start stop system activated. Like with other hybrids, Suzuki has a display, an energy monitor right here on the multi-info display, and it's showing you where the power is coming from. And when you actually look at it, when you really observe it, it's really coming more almost always from the engine. Very rarely does it not come from the engine, because the motor is there again to provide a little bit of assist. I can also see the state of the battery charge. The way they actually have it laid out, like they have the engine up in front, and then the motor is like somewhere in here in the middle, and then the battery is in the trunk, which of course that's not the case. The engine and the motor are like right next to each other. I guess they just made it that way to kind of show you a diagram of which way it's going. But still, it actually works pretty seamless. You don't even really think about it. It's not something you can press an EV button like with, say, a Prius or something like that. Now for the fuel economy. On the highway, don't be surprised if you're getting around 15.1 kilometers per liter. That's actually pretty normal for something like this. But what will surprise you is the reduced gap between city fuel economy and highway fuel economy. Because in this one, in the city, I was getting around 11.4 kilometers per liter, average speed of just 21 kilometers per hour. So again, normal kind of everyday traffic. If it's heavier traffic, it's around 9.8. And that's what the hybrid system, actually any hybrid system, including, let's say the full hybrids or mild hybrids, or this one is even a milder hybrid, that's what it actually gives you. It offsets the difference. It reduces the difference of the fuel economy, the gap between city fuel economy and highway fuel economy. Because the electric system, it gives you a few things like the start-stop, the boost, all that. It reduces the disadvantages of most engines, which is low fuel economy when it comes to city driving. There are some things about the Ertiga hybrid that, once you see or hear, you can't unsee anymore. For example, when you look at the way the touch buttons are here on the panel, you notice that it's not centered. If you're like me, you like to have on a paper, when you're writing a paper, you want to have everything like centered and justified so it looks neat on the margins. Here you can see it's kind of favored to the bottom part. Still, it works fine. It's all well and good, but yeah, that's something. The other one is that I'm noticing a rattle from the window, and I was trying to figure out what it was, and then I realized it's not the window per se, but it's the screw, or at least I think it is without having to open this. It's the screw that's holding the window to the bracket, like right there. It's like a little bit of metal rattling on glass. That's what it is. So yeah, I think it's loose somewhere there inside. But really, the one thing that I'm really not liking is this rear view mirror, because I can't look at it for 2 or 3 seconds and not feel like, whoa, my eyes, even without my glasses. Not happening. So I don't know who the supplier of that rear view mirror is, but hot damn, that is not for me. But really, it makes me want to go to my nearest, I don't know, Concord, Blade, find something to cover that up with. But what do I think of the Suzuki? Well, let's go back to the warehouse and find out, because I have some interesting thoughts about this vehicle. There are a lot of interesting points to talk about with the Suzuki Ertiga Hybrid. But one thing is for sure, we like the way it drives. It feels good on our kinds of roads. The AC is great, it's actually comfortable, it's actually very nice to drive, and it feels nice to drive. But when it comes to the actual product planning of this, the specifications, the certain features, we think Suzuki missed a few opportunities there. I mean, some features we would even consider basic are actually missing. And that is something odd. We don't know how that got past Suzuki's product planning, but they should really revisit that, especially some of the essentials inside. Now, as for the hybrid system, we can argue all day long about whether it actually benefits the driver and the owner of this, but we're seeing a little bit of improvement when it comes to the fuel economy. We're also feeling a little boost when we're pulling off the line in city traffic. And of course, there's no discounting the fact that this is a vehicle you can drive 5 days a week in Metro Manila and maybe also Baguio, because it is coding exempt. Yes, it's actually coding exempt. We're not quite sure how Suzuki was able to pull that off. I'm no lawyer, but if they were able to secure that kind of permit from the authorities, hey, all well and good. You can enjoy the benefits of a hybrid when it comes to the Ertiga. Now we do come to the price. This one is at 1.153 million, which is actually kind of interesting because when you look at a lot of other competitors in the class, it's a little bit under. But honestly, I think what Suzuki should have done was offer it for a little bit more, put in a few more of the essential features like extra cup holders, maybe a wireless charger, electronic parking brake, armrest for the front seat, maybe even better vents in the back, and of course, please, a day-night mode for the rear view mirror. That is something really essential. This is Vince of AutoIndustriya.com. Thank you for watching. Let me know in the comments below what you think of the Suzuki Ertiga, and if you're interested in one, well, do try one out for yourself.